Hi, I'm Jim Nettles, and this is my story. I guess when you're happy, you don't notice what's really going on around you. Then you accidentally find out that your wife is cheating on you, and your world falls apart. I believed that my 18-year-old daughter and her friends were sneaking down to the basement to drink my home-brewed beer. But instead, the camera I set up in the basement caught my wife's lover having sex with her and drinking my beer. JT and I are members of a beer club here in Atlanta, and he discovered that his wife of 25 years had been cheating on him for more than 24 years. He shared his story with us at one of our beer club meetings. I ignored his advice to take off my rose-colored glasses and take a sober look at my marriage. Karen and I have 3 children and have been married for almost 28 years. Life was wonderful. Karen is the only daughter of Ben and Alice Thompson. She grew up in a wealthy and prominent family. Karen may be 49, but she looks 35. I don't know if I was raised middle class, but I grew up in a loving family. I grew up in a small town near Atlanta, the youngest of 2 brothers. I grew up next door to my grandparents, and my father worked in my grandfather's store. My brother Ken and I worked in the store after school and on weekends. Ken went to Georgia Tech and is an electrical engineer at a paper company in South Carolina. Following my older brother's example, I went to Georgia Tech to study computer science. Every small town has a rich kid, and Joey was ours. Joey and I had been best friends since we were 3. While I was at Georgia Tech, Joey was at Emory. I would set Joey up on dates when he came to visit me, and he would return the favor when I visited him. Karen was one of my blind dates at Emory. She was the only girl Joey ever introduced me to, and I called her to ask her out on a second date. In high school, we spent as much time together as our schedules allowed. I knew one thing. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this woman. However, before I could propose, I had one problem to solve. My grandparents and parents had taught me to work hard and provide for my family. Karen came from a wealthy family and had never worked a day in her life. My pride would not allow me to live off her parents. If she agreed to marry me, we would live independently, without her parents' help. Thank God she agreed. When I was old enough to work, my father insisted that I save 10% of my earnings for the future. I spent part of my savings on an engagement ring for Karen. The day after I proposed to Karen, we went and told her parents. Karen and her mother were thrilled and immediately began planning the wedding. Karen and her father were left alone. We went into his office, and he asked me about my plans after college. I told him that I had accepted a job offer from a large corporation here in Atlanta. He was happy that we would be living nearby and that he knew the corporate executives. About 2 hours later, we said goodbye and left. Karen and her mother had 14 months to plan the wedding, and I had a year to focus on my career. 3 months after we told Karen's parents about our plans, Ben invited me into his office. He said he liked me and that he knew Karen loved me, but as a father, he had to protect his daughter and his family. I sat there wondering what the hell he was talking about. He handed me a document and said it was a prenuptial agreement he wanted me to sign. I heard my father's voice. Never sign anything without reading it, asking questions, seeking advice, and thinking it through. He sat there and waited while I read the agreement. The agreement stated that if our marriage broke up within the first 5 years, I would receive $100,000 and would not be entitled to any other property of Karen's or her family. Every 10 years, the amount increased, reaching $5 million by our 25th wedding anniversary. I sat there staring at him with my mouth open, trying to figure out how to respond. After a few minutes, I said to him, "Sir, I love your daughter and plan to spend the rest of my life with her. However, the business side of me understands where you're coming from. I'll take that into consideration and think about it." He replied, "All right, I'll wait for your answer." My father is the first person I turned to for advice. So I went to him. Dad read the document carefully twice, then said, "Jim, we both know why Ben wants this agreement, and the way it's written only protects his family. My question is, What do you want to get out of this marriage, and what do you want to protect from them? We discussed my goals, feelings, dreams, and long-term plans for the future with Karen. Dad said, "I've always lived by the principle that if you ask me to give something up, you have to give something up too. Ben's lawyer is protecting the Thompsons' interests. That's what he's paid to do. He sees you as a guy from the sticks with nothing to lose and a lot to gain. We both understand why he wants this agreement. Ben believes you love Karen now, but he's worried that something might happen later. We would do the same in his place." He paused, then said, "Jim, marriages break up for all kinds of reasons. This prenuptial agreement covers all of them. Being together in college is one thing, but being married and working is quite another. Can you and Karen overcome the difficulties? You may find that you can't live together because of your jobs, your friends, money, lack of money, your parents, or something else. Do you want Ben's money because your marriage isn't working out? What could end the marriage that would make you want his money? God, I'm so glad I went to talk to my father." I called my brother Ken and heard his opinion, which was pretty much the same as what my father had told me. After talking to several other people I trust, I realized what changes I would make to the prenuptial agreement and how to discuss them with Ben. During my next visit to Karen's parents, I asked Ben to leave us alone for a few minutes. He looked at me and said, "Let's go to my office so the ladies can discuss the wedding." When we entered the office, I took out the prenuptial agreement Ben had given me. "Sir, I've been thinking a lot and would like to make a few changes." He started to say something but stopped, then nodded, allowing me to continue. "I understand and respect your position. I am marrying your daughter because I love her. Therefore, I propose the following. 1. During the first 10 years of marriage, you will contribute $100,000 to an investment account. We will decide together where to invest these funds. We will meet once a quarter to discuss this matter. I believe this will give us a chance to get closer. 2. If the marriage breaks down, you will keep the money. Karen and I will divide the property acquired during the marriage equally between us. This does not apply to property received from you or my parents. 3. If the marriage breaks down due to my fault, you will keep the money and Karen will receive 100% of the property acquired during the marriage. This does not apply to property received from you or my parents. 4. If the marriage is dissolved due to Karen's fault, I will receive the money and 100% of the property acquired by us during the marriage. Again, this does not apply to property received from you or my parents. 5. Karen and I will receive full control of the investment account on our 43rd wedding anniversary." I paused to give him time to think. A smile appeared on his face. He leaned back in his chair and said, "Son, your proposal is very interesting. It shows that you love my daughter. Your proposal clearly shows that you are not interested in Karen's money. Your proposal to jointly manage the investment fund is really creative. I agree that it would give us an opportunity to do something together, and I would retain control for 43 years. What I don't understand is why you don't want to share anything in the event of marital infidelity. I have 2 questions. First, why 43 years, and please explain how the division of property would work in the event of infidelity. The answer to the 43 years question is simple. Karen and I will be 65, and that money will go toward retirement." He laughed and nodded for me to continue. "If the marriage breaks down because we tried but couldn't overcome our differences, then everything will be divided equally. We gave everything we had to make it work, so why punish the other person? Now, if one of us commits adultery, it will be a conscious act, and the marriage will not be able to survive the betrayal and mistrust that will remain after that. Marriage is a union of 2 people who become one. Our mission is to be faithful to each other until the end of our days. If Karen is unhappy with me, she can ask for a divorce and then date whoever she wants. I will be faithful to Karen, and the only way I can get revenge is if she cheats on me while we are married. Does that answer your questions?" A few weeks later, we invited Karen over and explained the prenuptial agreement to her. Karen was surprised to learn what was in the agreement and never thought it was possible. Karen looked up after reading it and asked, "Jim, do you agree to this?" "Yes, Karen." She took some time to reread the agreement. "Jim, why 43 years? And what's this condition about marital infidelity?" Laughing, I replied, "Your father asked me the same thing. In 43 years, we'll be 65. Think of it as our retirement fund." Karen sat there and smiled. "If we work on our marriage and can't save it, we'll get a divorce and move on, knowing we tried. Cheating is a conscious act where someone deceives another, lying about where they were and with whom. I can't imagine anything more destructive and dishonest toward a marriage. If I'm not right for you or you feel the need for someone else, ask me for a divorce. I won't be hurt, and I won't be a cuckold. I love you and will be faithful to you, and I ask the same of you." We had a beautiful wedding and a fantastic honeymoon. We have been married for almost 28 years and have 3 children. Dan is our oldest. He is 26 and named after my father. He works at one of Ben's companies, where Ben is grooming him to take over the family business. He has been accepted into an MBA program that will start this fall. Benny is 25 and loves the outdoors. After college, he went to work with my father. As you can see, Benny is named after Karen's father. My father is very happy that someone in the family will take over the farm and the building supply store. My brother and I left the farm as soon as we could. Amy, our surprise daughter, turned 18 3 months ago and has her head in the clouds. She's the best athlete of all our kids and got a full scholarship to attend the University of North Carolina, where she'll play soccer. After the boys left for college, I converted the game room in the basement into a beer bar. Karen and I love to entertain, and the bar has become very popular with our relatives and friends. For several months, I've suspected that someone has been stealing my beer. No, I don't keep track. It's just a feeling. When I was gathering beer for a beer club meeting, I couldn't find a single bottle of IPA. Fred Jones was at the meeting that evening, and I told him that I suspected my 18-year-old daughter was secretly drinking my beer from the pub. "You let your daughter drink beer?" "Number I let her try it, if she wants to." "Why do you believe it's her?" "Beer goes missing when I'm out of town. It can't be Karen. I've never seen her drink a whole glass of my beer. She prefers wine. The boys love my beer. When they come over, I send them home with a case of beer. Amy and her friends stay behind." "Well, I can install a surveillance camera with a motion sensor in the pub, and you can catch her on film." "Great idea. Can you install the camera tomorrow morning while Amy is at school?" "Would 11 a.m. be okay?" "Thanks. See you tomorrow at 11. Frank arrived right on time and had everything set up in 15 minutes. He spent another 20 minutes explaining how everything worked to me. "Are you going to tell Karen about the camera?" "No, she'll probably tell Amy." "When's your next trip?" "I'm going to Cleveland next week. I'm leaving on Wednesday and coming back on Thursday." "Have a good trip. Let me know if you catch her on camera." We left the system on and went to lunch. Over the next 2 weeks, every time I went to the pub, I had a beer and checked the recording. The only people caught on camera were the cleaning ladies who come in on Tuesday and Friday mornings, and me. I didn't get back from Cleveland until 1 a.m. on Friday because my flight was delayed by 2 hours. I spent Friday at the office. On Friday evening, Karen and I had dinner with her parents, and then we went to the theater. On Saturday, we had a barbecue at our house. On Sunday, after church, we visited my parents. When we got home, I fell asleep in my chair. On Monday evening, while Karen was at a meeting and Amy was at soccer practice, I checked the recording. 5 minutes into the viewing, my world fell apart. I expected to see Amy and her friends. Instead, I saw Karen walk into my bar holding Jerome's hand. Jerome, his wife Diana, and their daughter had moved into our neighborhood about 8 months ago. Jerome's daughter, Nicole, and Amy had quickly become friends. I froze when I saw my wife leaning over the armrest of my favorite chair. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the screen. It wasn't until I realized I was watching the recording from Saturday's barbecue that I snapped out of my trance. Damn, I wish I had turned on the audio. My shock turned to anger, then rage. Dad always emphasized that problems should be solved calmly without giving in to anger. Do your job, gather the facts, understand the problem, and then decide how to deal with it. People make stupid decisions when they're angry. I needed hard facts. While the tape rewound, I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm down and watch the recording again. It was obvious that this wasn't the first time. They had tried several positions. They sat and talked while that bastard drank my beer. I stopped the recording and called Frank. He answered on the third ring. "Frank, it's Jim Nettles. Do you have a couple of minutes?" "Yes. Did you catch your daughter stealing beer?" "Number, I caught my wife in bed with our neighbor, and I need your professional help." "I'm so sorry. What do you need?" "Everything. Can we meet tomorrow?" "Hold on. Let me check my calendar. How about tomorrow at 4? "Great, see you then. What should I bring?" "The tape, his name, address, phone number, work address, Karen's schedule, and when you're leaving town again. See you at 4. Thank God Karen wasn't home yet, and I had time to collect my thoughts. About an hour later, Amy came downstairs and said she was back. We went upstairs, and she told me about her next football game. I assured her I would be there. I'm not the type to run away from problems, so I decided not to go to bed and wait for my promiscuous wife to return. I still wonder if she went to her meeting that night. Oh well, I believed Frank would find out anyway. At 3:55, I walked into Frank's office, ready for battle. He said he was sorry that Karen had cheated on me. I replied, "I spoke to JT and he told me how you and Mike Ford are handling his case. You're an expert. What do you recommend? I know about the prenup and you have all the evidence you need of marital infidelity. What do you want?" "I know. But I want to know everything about Jerome, his past, his wife, and his family. I want to know when he goes to the bathroom and where. I want him followed 24/7. I want to know what he does, who he meets, how he makes his money, and what is most important to him in life. That son of a bitch is going to pay for ruining my life. I want you to follow not only him, but also Karen around the clock. It will take time and people to gather all the necessary information. I'll have my staff get on it first thing in the morning. I recommend installing cameras and voice recorders in all the rooms of your house, as well as in Karen's car." "Good idea. Too bad we don't have last week's recordings." "When is your next trip?" "In 3 weeks. I'll be away for 4 days this time." "Excellent. We'll have enough information for you by then. Did you bring the tape?" "Yes. I brought everything you asked for." "When can we come to your house to install the new system?" "Karen plays bridge on Thursday mornings. How much time do you need?" "We'll need at least 2 hours." "Okay. Let's meet at my house on Thursday at 9:30. As I left Frank's office, I felt relieved that something had been done. Now all I had to do was wait. 3 weeks later, I kissed my wife goodbye, for the last time, and drove to Austin, Texas. The last 3 weeks felt like 3 years. Mike Ford had prepared all the legal documents, and I put them in my briefcase. I had to deliver the divorce papers to Karen myself. I didn't go to Austin, but to JT's, knowing that tomorrow my marriage would be destroyed. As expected, Frank came with the news I had been waiting for. That bastard showed up 45 minutes after I left, and they slept together twice in our bed. Karen asked that jerk if he could spend the night with her, since Amy was staying at a friend's house. After much deliberation, I finally decided what to do about exposing Karen. In fact, I wanted to kick them both out of the house naked. The next day, I called Karen's father and asked him to meet me at his office. I told him I had a problem, I needed his advice, and I wanted to discuss it in private. He agreed to meet me at 6:30 p.m. Ben met me at the door with a questioning look. I had never asked him to come to his office, so he knew something was wrong. "Sir, I have always considered you my second father, and am glad that we have gotten to know each other so well over the past 29 years. Because I respect you and consider you my father, I have decided to treat you with the same respect I would treat my own father in this situation. Jim, what are you talking about? Well, sir, tonight I am filing for divorce from Karen on the grounds of marital infidelity. What the hell is going on? I have recordings of Karen and her lover having sex in our bed. What's more, right now your daughter and her boyfriend are having sex in our marital bed. That can't be true. What are you going to do? Well, sir, I've considered several options. I want to go over there, cut his head off, and throw him out of the house. You're not serious. Yes, I would love to do that. If I didn't respect you, that's exactly what I would do. However, I have another option that I want to discuss with you. For the next 45 minutes, we discussed my plan, and he agreed that it was the best way to handle the situation. At 9:15, Ben and I met with Frank Jones, Brad Williams, Mike Ford, and Steve Collins, an Atlanta police detective, at my house. I introduced everyone, and Frank informed us that they were in the master bedroom. We were conversing on the porch when Frank heard through his earpiece that they were having sex. I opened the front door and led everyone into the living room. Looking at Ben, I said, "I'm sure you don't want to see your daughter having sex. Why don't you wait downstairs?" I promised him again that I wouldn't hurt Karen. Brad followed us upstairs with the video camera. We wanted to record them before we went in, and we wanted them to know they were being filmed. Our plan was to stand at the door and wait until Jerome was finished, then go in. As we walked down the hall toward the bedroom, we could hear the sounds of their lovemaking. These were the sounds of love, not just rough sex. Jim, my God, what are you doing here? I came to give you the divorce papers and kick you out of my house. Jerome started to get up. I looked at him and said, "Jerome, it's in your best interest to stay in bed until I tell you to get up." When he realized there were 4 of us, he sat back down. Karen sat with a sheet covering her up to her neck, and Jerome tried to cover himself with a pillow. "Jerome, I want you to meet these wonderful people. First, this is Frank Jones, a private investigator. Next to him is Mike Ford, my divorce attorney, and next to him is Steve Collins, an Atlanta police detective. Brad is filming. I would love to kick you both out of my house naked, but I have other plans for you. In case you don't know, everything that has happened in this house over the last 3 weeks has been recorded." After a pause, I continued, "Karen, I know that Jerome is your ex-boyfriend, and over the last 3 weeks I've learned that you wanted to marry him instead of me. Everyone in this room knows you married me because your parents wouldn't approve of that jerk. We both know you married me to give your parents grandchildren and an heir. The good news is they already have 3 heirs, so your family is set for the next generation." Jim, please. Shut up! I don't care what you say. Not now, not ever. You can't say anything that will change the fact that you're lying in our bed with another man. Don't expect me to believe it was a mistake. I have a recording of you inviting that bastard to spend the night with you after he satisfied you twice in our bed yesterday, 2 hours after I left town. Don't waste your breath. I don't believe a word you say." Looking at Jerome, I said, "I have to say, you're a real player. We've been watching you for the last 3 weeks, not to mention digging up all the information we could find about your pathetic ass. Frank's team has compiled a very detailed report on your activities." Turning to Frank, I asked him to play the DVD for Jerome and Karen. "Karen, watch closely. I want you to see your lover for who he really is." The video showed scenes of Jerome satisfying Karen, as well as separate scenes of him satisfying 2 other women. But the best part was the scene with Jerome and his friends at the restaurant last week. They were sitting at a table chatting about nonsense when someone asked, "Jerome, are you still hitting on married white women? Have you hooked up with anyone since you got back to Atlanta?" "Oh, yeah. I've got 3 married white girls right now. Actually, you know one of them. Remember Karen Thompson from college?" "Yeah. Isn't that the bitch who came to our apartment on her wedding day so you could fuck her?" "Yeah, that's her. Can you believe it? She's my neighbor. If I remember correctly, she told you she wanted to sleep with you one last time before her wedding because she was going to be faithful to her husband. That's right. She kept her word for 5 months. Now she says she wants to marry me. Can you believe that bitch really thinks I'm going to marry her white ass? By this point, Jerome was yelling at me, and Karen was curled up in a ball, sobbing. Frank and Steve walked over to Jerome and told him to shut up. He finally shut up when they pulled his naked ass out of the bed. Jerome, we're almost done. Calm down and listen. We won't touch you unless we have to. Believe me, the 4 of us would love nothing more than to beat you half to death. But you know what? Your brothers-in-law have other plans for you. Your wife and her brothers weren't too happy when we shared this information with them. Why don't you get dressed? Your car should be here by now. Before you go, you should know that I gave copies to the husbands of the 2 women you slept with, as well as your wife. What did you do? I'll kill you, you bastard. You just threatened me in front of my lawyer and a police detective, not to mention that your threat was recorded on tape. Mike handed me a stack of papers, which I passed to Jerome. Okay, asshole. These are the divorce papers your wife asked me to give you. Before I forget, she asked me to tell you to get the hell out of here and don't come back home. Can you believe that? Her brothers volunteered to pick up your pathetic ass tonight, and they're waiting for you downstairs. I have to say they're not in the mood to wait until we finish our little chat. Now it's time for you to go. Hope you enjoy the ride home. Steve will walk you downstairs. Hey, Jim, don't forget to tell that jerk how his brothers helped us gather information on him. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, asshole, the documents we gave your wife cover at least 15 years. Frank, with the help of her brothers, documented 12 instances of marital infidelity. You better hurry up. They're waiting for you downstairs. Steve grabbed Jerome by the arm and escorted him out the door. I turned and looked at my deceitful wife. Well, sweetheart, how does it feel to find out that the love of your life has been playing you like a fool? How does it feel to find out that you've been deceived and unloved? How does it feel to know that you were just another woman to Jerome? How does it feel to know that you were his mistress 30 years ago? How does it feel to know that he didn't love you? How does it feel to know that you destroyed our family? How does it feel? I paused, letting my words sink in and gathering my thoughts. You stupid bitch. I told you 30 years ago that the worst thing you could do to our marriage was to cheat on me. It's bad enough to ruin our marriage, but to ruin our family for a piece of shit like Jerome is unforgivable. From that day on, you ruined every holiday, every birthday, every graduation, every wedding, and every special family event. You lost the respect of your children, your parents, my parents, and our friends, because you're a whore. The sight of you makes me sick. I can't believe I wasted 30 years of my life loving a piece of shit like you. As far as I'm concerned, you're dead to me. She just lay there on the bed and cried, hiding her head under the covers. You don't deserve any more of my time. Get your unfaithful ass up and get dressed. Your father is waiting for you downstairs. He agreed to drive you home, and I can tell you he won't tell Alice. I have nothing more to say to you. You have 5 minutes to get dressed in the clothes you wore to your real lover tonight. Jim, I can't let my father see me like this. That's your only choice, if you don't want me to drag your ass downstairs naked. Don't worry, your father knows what you're really like. Now get your pathetic ass up and get dressed. You have 4 minutes left. Please, Jim, I beg you, let me put something on. Time's running out. Come on. I can't get dressed with everyone watching me. Please, Jim. To say that Karen was dressed provocatively would be an understatement. When I accompanied her downstairs, she was wearing a see-through blouse, a very short leather skirt, 10-inch high heels, and no underwear. Ben looked at her, then turned to me and said, "Oh my God! Jim, I can't drive her home looking like that. Her mother will have a heart attack, and I'm not sure I can drive with her looking like that." Karen stood there looking at her legs, her whole body shaking as she waited for my response. It was a difficult situation. On the one hand, I wanted her to leave as she was, but on the other hand, I wanted to show respect to Ben and Alice. The only sound in the room was the ticking of the old clock as everyone waited for my answer. Ben, I understand your problem. Steve, will you take them home in Ben's car and I'll follow you? No problem. Karen, because I love and respect your parents, I'll give you 10 minutes to go upstairs and get changed. The clock is ticking. She ran upstairs saying, "Thank you." When she came back, she was dressed like a soccer mom. I walked over to her, took her wedding ring and engagement ring off her fingers, and told her she didn't deserve them. When she reached for her purse, I told her to leave it. She was leaving with only the clothes on her back. Ben walked over, shook my hand, and said, "Thanks for letting her change. I'll take care of this." The hardest thing I've ever done in my life was telling my kids about their mother's affair. Seeing the pain in their eyes, answering their questions, and watching them deal with the devastation that affair brought was very painful. When Karen cheated on me, she took away our children's family. My parents' reaction was the same as my children's. Amy turned down a soccer scholarship to North Carolina and joined the Emory soccer team to be closer to her father. We agreed that she would attend Emory but live on campus with her teammates. She helped me renovate my bedroom and buy new furniture for my pub. When she's not home, I sleep in the guest room. Dan and Benny come over more often than they used to. One of the things I like best is that they take turns going with me to beer club meetings. Benny has taken up growing hops for the beer club. We're going to have a contest to see who can brew the best beer from Benny's hops. I know that Amy is watching me and making sure her brothers stay in touch with me. On the advice of our lawyers, Karen and I agreed to a no-fault divorce. Ben agreed that I had proof of Karen's infidelity and that I didn't need to divorce her on the grounds of adultery to gain control of the investment fund under the prenuptial agreement. Ben, Alice, and Karen avoided the embarrassment of a public trial. I allowed Ben and Alice to go through Karen's belongings and take her personal property. 2 months later, Karen's father called me and asked to meet with me at his office. We often talk on the phone, so I was surprised when he asked for a formal meeting. For the past 25 years, Ben had been trying to convince me to join the family business. I had always refused, saying that I would make my own living and never be accused of taking advantage of his influence. He surprised me by starting to persuade me to join him. I raised my hand and asked him to stop. I had no intention of joining his company. "Jim, I understand and respect the reasons why you never accepted my offer in the past. But this time it's different. I'm almost 76 years old, and Dan is at least 15 years away from being able to take over. I have always believed that if something happened to me, you would take my place. The situation with Karen has almost destroyed Alice, and she needs me. Alice is so ashamed that she cannot look her friends in the eye. She won't leave the house. Her therapist recommends that she be taken away from home for a while. Jim, I need you to step in for me and prepare Dan for the future." "Ben, I'm so sorry to hear about Alice. Please tell her I love her. Sir, I'm not ready to give you an answer today. Give me a few days to think about it." "Don't drag this out. I need to get Alice and Karen out of Atlanta as soon as possible. When can you give me an answer?" "I'll meet you here in 3 days with an answer." "Great. Say hi to your parents." "What? I know you always consult with your father before making a decision like this. See you in 3 days." 3 days later, I told Ben that I was accepting his offer. Dan is very happy with his role as guardian of the family business, and Ben is right. He's not ready to take over yet. Once a month, Ben and I meet with Dan, Benny, and Amy to discuss family matters. That way, Ben knows what's going on, and Dan has someone he can turn to for advice, just like I turn to my father and brother. Karen moved to Florida with her parents and keeps in touch with the kids. Dan and Benny go to Florida a few times a year to see Karen, and Amy spends a couple of weeks with her every summer. Karen goes to a few of Amy's soccer games and doesn't interfere with me. Alice is doing well but won't be coming back to Atlanta. I don't know what happened to Jerome. His wife divorced him, and as far as I know, he moved somewhere out west. He's been through at least 8 divorces and is now broke. Jerome didn't just ruin his life, he ruined a lot of marriages. I guess I shouldn't blame it all on that bastard. All those women chose to cheat on their husbands. They weren't raped, drugged, or drunk. They planned their sexual escapades in advance and are just as guilty as Jerome. I hope that in the future, I will find someone I can love. I miss being married, having someone to hug, talk to, and share my love with. Until that happens, I will wake up every morning, thank God for my children, and live looking forward, not backward.